After driving up through West Virginia, we eventually stopped on a little side road, and we hiked down the forest road till we found a flat spot, and then we set up camp. Kind of looks like a woolly mammoth. Maybe that should be his trail name, Woolly Mammoth. Now everybody's gonna making their own videos, and we're gonna see every trip
First one to get monetized
in the lens of like 3 different points of view. There's one. There's another. Once we got set up to camp, I straight away got setting up my hammock setup. I like my hammock because I can stay up off the ground and I don't have to dig out a spot to stay dry, and whenever it rains, I never have issues with puddling up in the bottom of my tent, and I can just sit there and float. Also, it cradles me, and I can turn on my side and not have to worry about rolling off a sleeping pad, and I just sit there, and unless you're a stomach sleeper, oh, it just feels glorious. But over the years, I realized that you really need a couple things to make the hammock setup work well. You need, and this one's big, you really, really need a good underquilt. This one that I'm using is really a 3 Seasons underquilt, so it's just a little chilly in this temperature. Probably got down to around 15 overnight, but it does the trick here, and I stayed warm. But man, that underquilt, if you don't have it, all of your sleeping bag will compress on the underside, and then you'll get air cooled on your back overnight, and you'll just freeze. But with that underquilt, I was pretty comfy. And start setting up our rain fly. When I first started doing some backpacking, I didn't even have a rain fly. I would just sleep in a shelter if it ended up raining. But now, after being rained out of a couple different hammock setups, now I always bring a rain fly along, and it's pretty nice just chilling under there when it's pouring rain. After setting up camp, it was soon time to start chopping up some wood. We look for dead wood that's off the ground. This keeps it dry. And as you'll see, these pieces that I'm cutting up actually are pretty fresh, and they're not quite as dry as I wanted, just because they were fresh green wood. But later on, I get some pretty good pieces of wood, and that keeps them going even in winter. When stuff can get pretty wet from all the snow and then melting and then refreezing and never really gets the chance to evaporate. Pretty moist. You want to stop doing that stuff. There's a bigger piece that'll burn.
That's kind of dangerous now.
Take this all somewhere else. Dude, it's just standing there.
Slightly safer now.
Now it won't splinter at the bottom.
And the bottom will flick up.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
I was fairly disappointed.
Plus, it was right down.
Here I'm just trying to whack apart some pieces of dry wood, get all the edges exposed as I can, get it down into some kindling. The bark ends up being pretty wet. There's this ring of wetness around any of the wood at this time of year. So you got to strip it down to where it's just in the inside of the wood, and then you can use that to get your fire started. Once the fire started, usually it can get warm enough that you can burn off the wet parts and just chuck full logs on. But before that, you got to start from kindling, and then you got to go to split wood. Even twigs don't always burn during winter, so you got to go to kindling, then split wood, and then finally you can go to things that still have the wetter bark wrapped on them. So that's what I'm doing right here. I'm just splitting it down with a knife, just whacking on that knife to get it to a smaller size. That'll burn a bit better and have a bit more of that drier stuff exposed.
That kind of coal is what's gonna set it off. Oh, it's on.
It's on fire. It's on fire. All right. Just gotta pick it up. Yeah. Fire's going. Oh, yeah. We just gotta get some larger stuff on it. It's going. The wind is getting it going well. That's good. Fire's going on right now. Got the stove going over there.
This is really good.
Warming my boots. I use bellows and you can just use a drone. Look at that go. Look at that now. Wow. I got this little hot tent set up with a little pipe out the side.
I would actually
Sick. You can't really see it. There you go. Now you can see. Blast them out with my headlamp. See, there's a little stove in there. The cooking stuff on top of it. Anyways, we got the old-fashioned just chuck it on the fire method. Good stuff. Yeah. Gloves, socks, boots back there. Just wanted to come back over here and fluff up my sleeping bag. Just give it some shakes, help it fluff up. Hasn't fully fluffed up yet. Now, it'll be just marginally warmer before I get it in there. There it is, sleeping bag. They're making burgers. Those are some fat burgers. Their hot tent is like puffed up at the top from all the heat inside it. The thing is cooking. Absolutely cooking. Ignore the hole right there from earlier. Good morning. Just kidding, I've been awake for a little bit now. It's like 7:30. It's time to get out of the hammock. Nah, just kidding. Who am I kidding? I'm gonna sleep in. Andy says that the only problem with getting out of the hammock is that he'll be even colder. I'm pretty warm right now. At like 3 a.m. I was starting to feel just a little mite chilly. So I ripped out the hot hands. chucked one down by my feet, held one, and snoozed the rest of the night. It's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Looks like the frost is gone from the green fly. I have to go over and ask Sean. He has a thermometer how cold it got last night. But at like 8:30 it was 20. So my guess is that it got into some pretty low teens last night. Well, it's day 2, morning of day 2. Got the fire going and starting to make breakfast. Tied up the food bags last night. I like doing this little this little slip knot. So I can just go like this, boom, and it slipped. And now, just in case, have it wrapped around the tree a little bit. So there we go. Clear down. Leaving now. How would you rate this trip?
It was good. I built a shelter. I didn't sleep in it. We had a nice big fire.
Ate good food. Hallmarks of a good trip.